Podcasters. Podcasting Smarter is the official podcast from Podbean, featuring podcasting interviews, best practices, and helpful tips. We're here to give you the tools, resources, product updates, and news to help you get started podcasting and keep your podcast growing.
Hello, and welcome everyone. We are so excited to be here with you today. We are joined by Cornelia Gamlem and Barbara Mitchell, who are HR specialists, consultants, and they're here to share some incredible wisdom today. My name is Norma Jean Belenke. I'm the head of events here at Podbean, and we're just so excited to bring you this event on maximizing the employee experience. So I'm going to read our brief intro. And just to tell you a little bit about this series, we're so excited because podcasting on an internal use case is being used by enterprise level organizations, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies to improve the employee experience for internal communications, for learning and development. And we've seen that across the board. So we're so excited to marry the technology that we're able to offer here at Podbean with our enterprise and business solutions with incredible experts in the industry who are here to share their knowledge and wisdom to help everyone within their careers. So without further ado, I'm going to read our brief intro and then we'll get started. Welcome back, everyone, to Podcasting Smarter and our Corporate Podcasting Smarter series for our June live event, Maximizing the Employee Experience, Strategies for Driving Engagement, Development, and Retention, with Cornelia Gamlem and Barbara Mitchell, HR experts and consultants, and authors of the books, The Big Book of HR, The Decisive Manager, and Unbelievable Tales from the Workplace. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, Corporate Podcasting Smarter has live stream sessions like this one, along with exclusive recorded episodes on the Podcasting Smarter podcast. Corporate Podcasting Smarter and our event today is brought to you by Podbean. We're a private podcast hosting solution for Fortune 100 companies with secure encrypted podcasting and a proven track record within the industry. Head over to podbean.com/enterprise to learn more about our business and enterprise solutions. We'll also have the link here in the comments for you today. And now we'll get started. Hello, Barbara and Cornelia.
Hello. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. We're so excited. I'm going to remove myself and then we'll let you two get started.
Thank you. We're delighted to be here today.
Okay. As Norma Jean had mentioned, today's discussion is going to be around maximizing the employee experience. And we're going to cover a lot of different areas that kind of move into what we mean by the employee experience. So since 2020, we have seen so many changes that really was a pivotal year for employers and for the world with COVID. And so many changes took place, so many almost immediately. Fast-paced decisions had to be made. And companies found themselves having to suddenly say, how do we do things differently? And just keep everything going and keeping on, as they say, so that they can continue to stay in business. They could continue to deliver goods and services to their clients and to their customers. Some of the things that we experienced was changes in where people work and how they work. Employees now want continuing flexibility. And when we talk about flexibility, we just don't mean the places that you work from. There's a lot of discussions about return to the office or work from home. But even employees who are in positions where they don't have the luxury of working from home, certain service industries, they still want flexibility around the hours that they work and their schedules. So flexibility really has a much broader meaning, and employees also want some flexibility in how the work is done. So we're going to be talking about a lot of those things today. Savvy employers are going to want to create cultures that are going to attract the right talent and also keep those folks around once they've gotten them into their workplace. And one of the ways they do that is cultures in which employees want to stay. So, how do you make those cultures happen? And that's really what we're going to be talking about today as we talk about the employee experience. We're going to cover just three areas, but they're three very, very important areas: employee engagement, employee development, and employee retention.
So when we talk about the employee experience, we're really talking about the what happens when a person decides to join your organization and then they become an employee with you. It's a journey that they have from the beginning to perhaps forever and ever, but probably not. And so talking about the employee experience, it's kind of just a general bucket that we've put a lot of things into, such as communication, engagement, and as part of engagement, communications, expectations, and appreciation. What we're talking about here is we really want, and what employees want from all of our research, they want to be part of something that's bigger than they are. They want to be part of something where they can make a real contribution and they feel as if they can make a difference. And that's what an engaged employee is all about. And an engaged employee really comes to work wanting to make a contribution. And how do you make that happen? It sounds great, great word, engagement. But we think there's just a couple of things that can make a real difference when you're working to get an engaged workforce. And that is, of course, having clear communication. Is there anything more important today than being able to have just good dialogue with your employees? Whether you're in person, whether you're hybrid, whatever your situation is, people want to know what's going on and they don't want to know why. They want to know about your culture. And it all starts even before they come to work for you. Have you ever thought about the impact your website has on someone who's thinking about making a decision to even apply for your company? Your website can tell a great deal about your culture and get people engaged even before they join your organization. So being clear with your communication and using every possible means of communication. We want to talk a little bit today about something called mobile communication. Or have you ever thought about when someone applies for a job with you, can they apply easily off of your website? Is your application easily read on a device rather than a screen? So there's lots of ways of communicating with people even before they become your employees. Then you get them, you hire them, set expectations, let them know what you expect of them, and let them know how they'll be held accountable. And then here's the real big one: recognize and show appreciation. We hear so many times from people who say, we don't have any money to recognize people. We don't have any programs. We can't give bonuses, whatever. But you know what the most important thing for appreciation is? And that is a simple thank you. Employees really want to be recognized for the work that they do and recognized in a timely manner. So employee engagement is all about how you connect with your employees, how they connect with you, and how they work to make your organization even better than you ever imagined it could be.
And, Barbara was talking about employee appreciation, and it's never too early to begin to show your employees how much you appreciate them. Even when they first join the organization, letting them know that you're glad they're there, that they're filling a very, very important role. But obviously, it doesn't stop there. Showing appreciation has to go through the entire employment relationship. And one of the ways you can do it, and you may not have made this connection yet, but it's through the ways that you develop your employees and help them to grow, because that sends a very powerful message to them that you care about them, that they are making a contribution to your organization. And that's all part of showing, keeping them engaged and showing them how much they are appreciated. So many times I'll hear or I'll get questions, well, we don't have a lot of money to invest in growth. Why should we be doing some of this? It just seems like we hired somebody for a job, and shouldn't that be enough? Well, in today's workforce, particularly true for younger employees, but I think anybody, nobody wants to just come to work and get hired into a job and see new other opportunities around them and say, well, I'm just going to be content to sit back and stay in this particular job. That just doesn't work. So it's really important that you invest in your employees' growth. It's something that they expect. And expectations really do work both ways. You have certain expectations of them, but they also expect to get something out of their employment relationship with you. The other thing about investing in employees' growth that often gets overlooked is that it supports your diversity and inclusion efforts. The more you make opportunities available to all of your employees, the word is going to get out that this is an organization that really cares, regardless of what diversity characteristics you bring with you, or the employee brings with them to the organization. It's just one more way to retain your employees and to keep them engaged. It also gives the employees a voice. It gives them that opportunity to say, hey, this is something that I'd like to do, I'd like to try. Or if you give them that opportunity to get trained and they come back, and now they can become a subject matter expert on something that they've learned. So they've got more of a voice in how things are done around the organization. And another thing that you can be doing in terms of investing in their growth is to make sure you're providing mentoring and coaching opportunities. Very, very important part of an organization's role, and particularly of the manager's role, in making sure that those employees do grow and develop. Why should I do some of this? I still continue to hear that after I've explained all of these things to people. And it's, well, you can fill some talent gaps. Think of it this way. You've invested a lot to recruit an employee and bring them into your organization. If they're showing that they are contributing and that they're doing a terrific job for you, why not give them the opportunity to do something different within your same organization? And wouldn't it be a lot cheaper to send them to some training where you can upskill them, as they say, or just give them help them to develop a different set of skills? It's a lot cheaper than going out and recruiting somebody new. You've got a person here now that has proven themselves and proven that they're committed to your organization. So give them a chance to do something a little bit different. Barbara mentioned something earlier about when you're communicating with employees to use different technology. And the use of mobile technology is absolutely wonderful these days for bringing training and bringing learning to employees. We often think of learning opportunities as either sending somebody off to a webinar or to a seminar or a workshop of some sort. But learning can take place in very, very short spurts. And if you use mobile technology, it really lends itself to micro learning, where the employee can grab short pieces of information, short gaps, if you will, and gives them a lot of knowledge and helps them to build some of their skills. And they can do it anytime and at their own convenience. So we hope that that's something that you will explore a little bit more. We've looked into it with some of our clients and have some good partners out there that provide great opportunities. And then don't overlook the use of podcasts, the use of webinars. We were delighted to see what Podbean is doing with this series as a way to bring more learning into organizations without it having to be a major event either inside the organization or outside the organization. So get familiar with using mobile technology more.
Cornelia, I just wanted to add one thing to what you've just talked about, and that is the idea of rather than going outside immediately to look to fill a position, I think many organizations are overlooking people that are inside the organization. And you mentioned upskilling, but what a wonderful thing it is for employees to know that they perhaps have some upward mobility. And boy, does that work for our next topic of retention, because people want to know that if I'm going to work for you, I really want to know that I can have a career here. And so don't immediately go looking outside to fill a position. See who you've got inside first and maybe what you could do with them, and think about the positive reaction that will take.
I was going to say, Barbara, that is so true because people often forget that, or they just assume somebody comes and joins them, and that's it. The work is done. But you're missing so many opportunities if you're not giving other employees more chances within your organization for promotion and growth.
Absolutely. And that certainly feeds to retention. Cornelia mentioned a moment ago what you have gone through to recruit, hire, onboard, develop an employee. You really want to keep them as long as you can. And you want to keep them in a positive way so that they continue to grow and they continue to contribute to your organization. And it all revolves around your culture. Having a positive culture where people, especially today's employees, want to work somewhere that they can be proud of. They really want to be able to, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be a household name, but you have to be somewhere where they can be proud of telling their friends, their family, that they work for an organization that has a real positive impact on their community. So don't overlook spending time on your culture. Also, letting people know what is your culture. How often do you talk about your values? How often, I have a client, for example, who every week they have a Zoom staff meeting, and they start out by talking about someone who lived their corporate values that week. And they share an experience about that person who did something that literally had an impact on their values. So think about ways like that where you can really inculcate your culture within your employees and how they all work together. Another thing that just feeds so strongly into retention is having a trust relationship between your organization and your employees. How do you establish trust? It is a word, but it's also a simple concept of doing what you say you are going to do, always being there for your employees, meeting them more than halfway, being really in tune with who they are. One of the things that we're learning so much after COVID is the idea of having management, leadership of organizations, talking, feeling, exhibiting, sharing vulnerability, and also establishing the fact that they care about their employees as human beings, not just employees. That sounds like a very simple concept. It isn't. It takes some work, but it can have tremendous impact on your relationship with your employees. During COVID, a lot of organizations, managers would call people and just ask them how they were doing. And we heard so many great stories of the impact that had on their employees. Let's not lose that. Now we are able to see people in person again, hybrid, or perhaps whatever construct your organization now resides in, but you can still have that personal one-on-one kind of conversation. How are you? What's going on with you? And I think one of the things that there aren't a whole lot of things that were positive after COVID, but one of the things I think was so positive was how we got to see people on Zoom or whatever platform you were using. We saw them in their home environment. We saw their cat walk across the keyboard, or a kid coming in and asking mom or dad a question. And you just became far more personal. And I don't want to lose that personally. I think that helps with the trust. It helps with the culture.
And Barbara, before you move on, there was something that I read today from a good colleague of ours, and she was talking about how during COVID, suddenly everybody saw the importance of what you just said, of connecting with your employees and getting to know them on a little bit more of a personal level, and how in the past that was almost taboo for managers, that was showing weakness. Everybody had to kind of be stronger than that, and recognize that we had to separate the workplace from our home lives. And as she put it, everything was appended during COVID, and everything then got blended. And now we're starting to see exactly what Barbara said, is that we applaud those efforts in managers, because they're starting to realize, and organizations are starting to realize, that this is something we really have to make available to our employees, because it's a way to show that we appreciate them. It builds that positive culture for us. And it just shows that we're all human beings, including the managers.
Absolutely. And then this is one of my favorite topics. I could talk about this for many hours, and you don't want to hear it. But the whole idea of listening, I think it's one of the underrated communication pieces. I frequently say to people that, remember how much time you spent learning to read and write, but did you ever have time to learn how to listen? Listening is just so important in a relationship, and certainly a relationship between an employer and an employee. We need to listen. We need to ask questions. We need to do surveys. We need to have all kinds of ways to really hear what's on people's minds. Ask them and then listen. And then find ways, if you can, to take their suggestions to heart and make them happen. And if you can't do what they're suggesting, you let them know why. And then they begin to understand the larger picture of what it's like to manage an organization. But please do not overlook the importance of listening to your employees. And you can do that in so many ways, using technology, as well as just using the wonderful things like active listening, where you paraphrase what you hear someone say, and they really know that you heard them. And then you move on and take action, or let them know why you can't. But don't overlook the importance of listening to your employees as a part of retaining them and making them feel as if you really value them. Value is one of my favorite words these days. You want to make sure that you let your employees know how valued they are. And you also want to make sure that they're getting value for their experience. Are you paying people fairly? Are your benefits as good as they can be? Do you have any sort of appreciation program so that they feel as if they are valued, and they get valued from the organization as well? So retention is a huge part of this employee experience.
And before we move off of that, as Barbara was talking about listening and finding out, what's on your employees' minds, it's another great way to start to use some of the technology tools that are out there. It's so easy to do simple surveys to see what is it that your employees need, what is it that they want, what are some of the things that you can do for them. And they don't have to be long involved ones, 2 or 3 questions. But again, you make sure you cycle back with them. If you're soliciting their suggestions, you need to make sure that you follow up with them, even if it's something that you can't put in place or you can't do, because that all gets interconnected with how you exhibit trust. So, listening to them, giving them that voice, it makes them feel part of the organization and part of the process, even if what they're suggesting is something that you have to say, no, we just don't think that it's the right time for that, or we just don't have the resources to make something like that happen.
So we have a challenge for you who have listened to us for the last few minutes. We hope we've given you some suggestions about what you can do to make a difference in your organization to enhance the employee experience. But our challenge for you is, what can you do? Maybe differently tomorrow, maybe differently when the next time that you have a staff meeting or whatever. But what can you do to enhance the employee experience in your organization? Give it a try, see how it impacts your profitability or your retention of members, whatever your organization does. But don't lose sight of the fact that letting your employees know that you value them and that you're hearing them, you're listening to them, and you want them to succeed, that can have a tremendous impact on the future for your organization. We would love to stay connected with you. Here is every way possible for you to stay connected with us. One of the best ways, of course, is link in with each of us. We were just laughing today about the fact that we did a webinar not long ago where an awful lot of people linked in with us, and we were just a little overwhelmed, but in a good way. We loved it. So please, we'd love to hear from you. We will share the books that we have. We've shown them across the bottom of our page here today. Norma Jean mentioned a couple of them at the beginning. The Decisive Manager is the one that we've talked about most today. And we also have some other books, one of which I'll let Cornelia talk a little bit about. One of the ones we had some fun writing that gives you some very practical information about employees and what they do at work.
Yeah, we mentioned The Decisive Manager. That's our most recent book. And, just staying in line with everything that we've been talking about, managers have a lot of decisions that they have to make. And what we attempted to do in that book is lay out some typical situations that we know managers have to encounter or have encountered, based a lot of it on our own experiences, and gave some guidance on how you might want to go about dealing with a particular issue if it comes up. But the book that we really enjoyed writing is the one called They Did What? Unbelievable Tales from the Workplace. That reads a lot differently than any of our other books. It reads more like stories, because that's what we set out to do. We wanted to portray some lessons of the kinds of things that go on inside of an organization. It's kind of a look behind the curtain and see what really happens. But what we hoped readers would take away from that is that when you're dealing with employees and you're dealing with people, you're dealing with human behavior. And there's not always one right answer to do some of those things. You can't just necessarily open up a book and say, here's the situation. This is what we're going to do to deal with it. We really try to inform and entertain at the same time, because we know that, getting back to learning, people learn oftentimes through stories because they have much more of an impact on them. So, we've tried to be good storytellers through our books, but that one really gave us the opportunity to do so. And if you want to learn more about our books or about us, please visit our website, because we have a weekly blog on there. Sometimes we present a story, and sometimes we just present timely information. So it's a way that you can continue to connect with us and keep up with what we're up to and what we're doing.
Well, absolutely. Barbara and Cornelia, thank you so much for joining us. This has just been incredible. And this is just really a taster, right, of a lot of the knowledge and information you have with all of the incredible books that you've written. So thank you both so much for joining us here today. I also wanted to ask really quickly, because we do have a couple more minutes. Cornelia, you were mentioning in your latest book, the two of you, because you co-author all of your books together, which is incredible. You were mentioning in The Decisive Manager, you go over some common issues or roadblocks that managers face. Is there one that you could briefly share with us now? No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Yeah. Let me just pull something up. So we're talking about helping employees grow and develop, and it's talking a little bit about micro learning. Micro learning and gamification are two things that have really kind of new on the learning and development scene, and trying to give people some opportunities to understand what they are. Micro learning I kind of touched on, but gamification is where you may take a situation like a treasure hunt or something. Just turn that situation into a game so people can have some fun doing it. And we do point them to some resources of where they can find a little bit more information about that. That was one of the kinds of things that we talked about. And Barbara, can you think of something else that maybe is more of a problem?
One thing I could think of is just, first of all, it's in a question and answer format. So we ask a question, and a question I remember is about the importance of onboarding your employees.
Absolutely.
What are some ideas about how to bring people on board? And so we try to give some real practical tips about how important it is to be ready for your new hire, and to have a lot of people are having to do virtual onboarding. And so how can you do that effectively? So we try to be as absolutely practical as we can, giving solutions. We don't ever tell people how to do things. We give them ideas of how they might want to do them, because there rarely is one way of doing anything in the world of human behavior or human resources. But we hope that the book is very practical, and they're short, sweet kind of questions and answers, and then give people some real practical tips.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've also seen onboarding with podcasting, with internal private secure podcasting.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's been incredible. And the benefits are just, from reduced screen time to more information retention to the employee experience. Overall, it's been really, really interesting. So Barbara and Cornelia, thank you so much. This has just been such a beautiful kind of snapshot of what employers can do in terms of increasing that employee experience, whether it's new employees, whether it's current employees, whether it's retaining the employees that you have. And this goes not just for business owners or managers in HR. This is really across the board in your organization, right? So whether you are at the middle or at the top, kind of across the board, no matter what department you're in, if you're working with people, you are affected by management and how things work, and you have a role. So it is really incredible. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. We've enjoyed it.
So thank you so much for joining us for Podcasting Smarter and our Corporate Podcasting Smarter series for our June live event, Maximizing the Employee Experience, Strategies for Driving Engagement, Development, and Retention, with Cornelia Gamlem and Barbara Mitchell, HR experts, consultants, and authors of the books, The Big Book of HR, The Decisive Manager, and Unbelievable Tales from the Workplace, amongst others. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, Podcasting Smarter and Corporate Podcasting Smarter has live stream sessions just like this one with top podcasting and business professionals. We also have exclusive recorded episodes on the Podcasting Smarter podcast. If you joined late or want to have another listen to this incredible conversation, you can replay this live stream on Podbean's YouTube channel. Corporate Podcasting Smarter is brought to you by Podbean. We are a private podcast hosting solution for Fortune 100 companies with secure encrypted podcasting and a proven track record within the industry. Head over to podbean.com/enterprise to learn more about our business and enterprise solutions. And the link is also here for you in the description today. Thank you so much for joining us.